Okay, where we were meeting in groups of 4, and the questionnaire that you have in front of you is simply to help start the discourse. It's the incubator, I guess we could call that. It's the catalyst for further dialogue. And as we said outside, that your homework post this is that the group that you're with, you will need to meet with that group at least one time before Thanksgiving, over coffee or tea or whatever it is that you'd like to meet over, and again, touch these questions or a particular question or theme that emerges from your dialogue. I want you to look through the questions, pick 1 or 2, and as a group decide that's where you're going to focus on. But remember, I asked that you answer all of them and just do it in bullet form so that you can have a dialogue later on when you decide to get together again, okay? Everybody understand the rules of engagement? Yes? Okay, let's have at it. I'm going to be coming around and listening, okay? Because if you're just thinking inside your head, nobody can hear what you're saying. And sometimes you need to say that out loud, right? Okay, so make sure we're sharing. Okay, we're gonna wrap up, so take 30 seconds to share your last bit of comments. What we have left is an opportunity to hear from each group. As I asked for you to focus on a particular question if you liked, or a set of questions, or maybe even a theme has emerged in your small group discussions. From one group, I've heard about the possibility of hearing conversation that extends beyond the institution and partakes from the community for a different type of lens or a different slant on the perception of what's occurring, not in the community, but the perception of what's occurring on campus from the community. From another group, I just heard a list of questions that, and this is what it's supposed to do, ask you to ask yourselves questions that you will wrestle with. From another group, I heard about the importance of potentially framing the dialogue so that the conversation can be fruitful. That's great. From one group, I heard that someone has a really awesome mom that supports their education, so that was great. And then I have a group in front of me who's going to begin the dialogue. And if you would, and I don't mind tapping you on the shoulder, I'll give you about a minute to a minute and 15 seconds to share what your group came out of. Right? Please introduce yourself.
Oh, me?
Please introduce yourself.
Oh.
Next to the group. Yeah.
Oh. Hi, my name's Adelaide Kelsky, And our group got through a couple of the questions here. And basically what we were talking about is that your background and your baggage that you bring to the table when you're talking about civil discourse has to be taken into consideration, but you also have to look at from all the other points of view. And we also talked about when it's respectful social disruption, it all depends on your point of view as to whether you view that as a respectful disruption. So.
Thank you. Please give her a hand. One of the words I want you to consider working on is the word tolerate, right? Or tolerance. Some of us look different, act different, think different, and we are just simply different. I don't think any of us want to be tolerated. I want to be embraced, right? I want to be embraced for the person that I am, and I would expect that we all feel the same way. So think about the word tolerate. Okay?
Okay, I guess I'm sharing from my group. My name is Courtney, and I'm assistant professor in the Higher Education Leadership Program. And I'll just share a couple kind of general themes that my group kind of focused on that kind of came up through a few of the questions that we responded to. And that was around the importance of kind of knowing who our audience is or who we're engaging with. The more we know about them as persons and individuals, about their lives, we're able to kind of craft and engage in the conversation in different ways. So we talked about being a little strategic, and like we're going to engage in this conversation with one person in one way, but with another person with a different background, different life experience, we might engage in that conversation from a different starting point. And so just kind of being aware of that and how our life experiences impact the ways that we're going to engage with one another's. That's what we'll share because we want to give everyone else time to share as well.
No, that was good, and I like the nod of affirmation, like, yeah, that was good. We're good.
Okay, well, one of the points that came up with our group, close to the beginning, we started with question 14, does discourse have to be civil? And we agreed that no, it doesn't. But it went further into a point that I wrote down. If someone's voice can't be heard, the conversation is uncivil. You know, and it led us to question, you know, what we mean by civility. And, you know, I'd never thought of it that way. You know, it could be, you could follow Robert's Rules of Order all you want to, and it seems civil, but it may be very uncivil. And that people can have passionate voices, and people, when they're hurting, they need to be able to speak their piece. We talked a little bit about politics and Donald Trump, and that led us, well, I'm not sure it led us to it. We started with the question of do we reject legitimacy of opposing ideas and the value of exposure to them? There were concerns brought up about how hard it is, and are we at a point in time right now where we seriously have issues, just basic, you know, that we don't have time to, as academics sometimes do, to ponder and discuss, that we really need to just start something and before we go off this cliff. Okay.
I want to make sure that I look you in the eye when I say jump. Jump. Yep. So I often talk about the uses of technology because that's the space that I work in often, and I let people know that I'm on a precipice. And most people will stay on the precipice because they're fearful that there may be jagged edges at the bottom of the precipice, right? I think there's just this big, soft, pillowy clunk of grass down there. And that's my thought process. I don't fear the fact that I need to jump, to push and go to where we need to go, because it's going to be a safe landing. Jump.
Hi, my name's Andy from the Dean of Students Office. So we talked about a number of different things. I think what was most interesting was this idea that it can feel like a burden when there is civil disruptions, protests going on campus, and we're trying to figure out how we balance being a faculty staff member here while not potentially giving the university a bad name or a bad image. So how do we support students, but then also not directly engage ourselves into some of the things that are happening on campus, and just figuring out where we exist within that world sometimes is confusing and difficult. That was a large part of our discussion.
Well, if you look across the room, the reason that I talked about the importance of being with the people that you're with, and we've lost 2 members here, but that's okay, because I'm sure they exchanged information and they're going to get together before Thanksgiving like we asked. All right, perfect. You found your tribe, and I've given you members of your tribe, so I'm hoping that the discourse that takes place that is not just simply about the discourse, but the utilization of data, okay? And it doesn't matter if you're faculty, staff, or student, okay, or community member, the utilization of the data to support your claims, contentions, observations, so that you can spur policy and the creation of guidelines, et cetera, okay?
Okay, we talked about some of the similar things, Adelaide, like what you said, it's perception. But the other thing we felt had a big impact was possibly religion, personal views, or your exposure to whatever the topic is, and that can make a big difference, not only in what you perceive as civil, but as to your openness to the discussion.
Small group, you wanna? Okay, here.
My name is Brent Bilodeau. I serve as the Interim Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs. I'll do my best to reflect the discussions of our group. We started with looking at number 8. Are good discussions cooperative or competitive? And I thought, Patty, you had some very interesting insights about the notion of this is often framed as an either or and not as a both and. And so it was also about how do we set the stage for being cooperative? Where does competition in terms of what we might learn from the diversity of the ways that work is being expressed versus work being pitted against each other? I think that is an ethic or a spirit of cooperation that I really seek when I'm in discussions. Patty, is there anything there were some things that you said I don't want to miss?
No, I think you largely got it, but we were looking at how competitive is sometimes viewed negatively, but it's really often very positive. And sometimes we didn't delve into it, but we were touching on cooperative sometimes is often viewed as positive, but it's not always or doesn't have to be cooperative. If you're not drilling down and asking the questions, you've achieved nothing by simply being cooperative.
You all get an A for the day. Should pat yourselves on the shoulder. Good job. So, I'm a person that believes in utilizing all of my time. So it's about 2 o'clock. The video that I'm going to show you is more inspirational and aspirational. So what I want you to consider as you're watching it, context. Don't move away from the thought process and the dialogue that we're in at the moment. Stay with us and be in this moment. Send a text if you need to, call someone if you need to, do all that stuff. But when that starts, I want you thinking about the literal, as I mentioned to our new graduate student, the power that you have in the room. Power is distributive, okay? It's not just in one locale at an institution. Sometimes it may seem that way because rules, guidelines, and things are created because of the type of structure that we have. But if you, as I mentioned earlier this morning, if you give away your agency, if you give away your voice, and allow others to interpret and emphasize what they believe you need and what they believe that you're thinking, you literally just gave it away. So we don't want to do that. We want to share in the transition that's occurring at the institution. And the only way to do that is to make sure you speak up.
You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever, because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well-worn path, and that will make all the difference. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. You've got to find what you love, and that is as true for work as it is for your lovers. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking and don't settle. Have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become.
But you're going to have some ups and you're going to have some downs. Most people give up on themselves easily. You know the human spirit is powerful. There's nothing as powerful. It's hard to kill the human spirit. Anybody can feel good when they have their health, their bills are paid, they have happy relationships. Anybody can be positive then. Anybody can have a larger vision then. Anybody can have faith under those kinds of circumstances. Challenge of growth, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, comes when you get knocked down. It takes courage to act. Part of being hungry when you've been defeated, it takes courage to start over again. Fear kills dreams. Fear kills hope. Fear puts people in the hospital. Fear can age you, can hold you back from doing something that you know within yourself that you're capable of doing, but it will paralyze you.
At the end of your feelings is nothing. But at the end of every principle is a promise. Behind
So what I always make sure that I do, to me, I'm the same, or I attempt to be the same, no matter if there's one person in the room or 500 people in the room. I may be on better behavior if my children and my mother and my wife are in the room, but when I put this information up there, I have an expectation, and it's a really nominal expectation that you reach out. So when I talk about people being parts of their tribe, right? The ability to connect with people is based on getting down off of the stage, moving away from the achieve status and engaging in dialect that's meaningful, authentic, and for lack of a better term, I'll use the colloquial real, right? So I really believe that you engaged in that dialogue in your small groups. We engaged in that dialogue over the course of, not even 24 hours yet. And that's awesome. I love being able to see the light bulbs go off. And more importantly, to hear people in a community that maybe didn't speak out in that community give themselves agency in that community. And like I said, it's different when you stand up here and I get to see all of your faces, but to see your micro expressions when other people are speaking, again, you're going down the right road. So the continuance of this journey is an opportunity for you as individuals first, your small groups second, your respective department divisions next, your institution, and then your community, right? And then you get to tie in that Wisconsin idea, yeah? So it goes full scale in the state. I went all the way to your Wisconsin idea, okay? So that's statewide. You get to determine what's next. I thank you for your time. That's my real cell phone number. That's my real personal email. And that michealtorrence.org is something that I'm working on, because I got to have a place to put all of my stuff. Okay? So what I want to open it up for now is questions and or observations and opinions, not specifically about what we're doing, but what needs to be done. Okay? And don't speak all at once.
What do you think is the best way to come into a conversation? What steps would you take going into a conversation where you know that most people are not going to agree with you?
Great question. So what is the best way to come into a conversation, or come into a conversation where you don't believe that people are going to be open to what you have to say? First and foremost, as a human being, I'm a person that tries to stay away from best, because everybody is unique, and I try to respect that. So I think that that's my way, that's my point of entry, that I'm not looking at any individual with a preconceived, or I don't have precepts for anybody that I meet. So the first time that I met Dr. Yarbrough, we had been talking over the phone and via email. I thought he was taller, okay? And I'll just leave it at that. So, you know, I thought he was taller, okay? But I think coming into a dialogue that is meaningful and authentic, as I mentioned before, stems from the very basis of, am I okay with where I'm coming from to engage in this dialogue with this person? Because if you're going to be the catalyst, if you're going to be the conversation starter, if we are both open, then I would have the expectation that you would be the more open, because you want to have the dialogue. You're engaging with that person to have this dialogue. So you need to be as patient as you possibly can and talk about the idea. We're human beings, so emotion becomes a part of every conversation, and words elicit certain kinds of responses. So you can frame, okay? You can frame the discussion in the way that you ask the questions. And I don't think there's a best way to do it. But I do think that thinking about the person that you're going to engage with, and the observation isn't simply about what they say, it's often about what they're not saying. And I think that's the approach that I usually take. It's worked so far. It's worked so far. Any other questions? Wanted to make sure I didn't fall coming down the stairs there. Yeah. Anybody else?
So hi everyone, I'm Isabella Virueta and I'm a second year grad student here at UWW-Whitewater. My question, I guess, wanting to frame in having civil discourse, but what about when that person or that group or whatever, their opinion is, or something that is overtly questioning someone else's existence to their identity. So how do you frame questions if you're trying to find a solution to whatever issue? How do you frame that when there's already an unspoken hostility if that person's opinion is, directly against your entire form of your identity?
I'm not asking the question directly of you. This is to the group. It may sound like you, but not, okay? Do you love yourself? And so the reason that I asked that question, right? I think that self-efficacy, self-actualization, self-love allows us to be in a space where I can respect the fact that someone may never acquiesce to the platitudes that I espouse, but I still want to engage in that conversation to have an understanding, because if I choose not to engage in the dialogue, I can never become a part of the solution, okay? And maybe I shouldn't use the word never. It's so finite, but it's unlikely that I would be someone that could become a part of the solution. And where there is a barrier, all of the people who've come this morning and today and last week, these are people who move barriers out of the way or make a decision. The fence is 12 feet tall, and by the looks at all of our physicality, I can't believe that anyone could jump over it. So if I can't go over the fence, then what other tool would I have to dig under the fence? And if I don't have the tool, can I ask someone in my community to give me a pair of wire cutters so that I can go through the fence? And if I can't go through the fence, maybe I need to find a different plot of land. Now, what I'm not saying or in support of, if it doesn't work, then we just move away from it. What I'm saying is, I think we spend a lot of time in instances of trying to have civil discourse, and at some point, we need to move forward. So sometimes folks just don't want to get on the bus. It's okay. Bus is cool. No, we're singing on the bus. We got pop. I think y'all say pop out here, right? We got pop. They say soda, okay. We have pop and soda on the bus. Hot dogs. I got a grill on the back of that bus. This bus is tricked out. So if someone doesn't want to come along, I think we need to be respectful of where that person is, but we still need to move forward. We still have to go. You have a question?
I was, a bit too loud. I was wanting to respond, Isabella, to your thoughtful question because it prompted additional thinking in me. And I think that part of this also is about, as I was listening to your question, Isabella, I was thinking, I know what it is to be there and how hard and frustration is. Many of us have experienced that on campus just recently with, in terms of being a campus where outside speakers have come and have pushed the boundaries of the First Amendment right up to the limits, being in students' faces, and it being very difficult to figure out how to help students to manage that. But as I listen to your response, Dr. Torrence, is part of this about how do we be a community of civil discourse, given the reality that we are going to have identities and values and beliefs that are radically in conflict with each other no matter what we do. So I would just start to think about, so often my goal is, okay, how am I going to get this person to my side of the fence? And to what degree did all the things that I know that training says don't do, I find my brain going there immediately. So you were helping me to think about some broader questions about this notion of a container that allows for civil discourse, recognizing that there's some pretty significant conflict that will be constant. And so it's more my comment, I guess, more than a question, it was my response.
That's awesome. No, so great response to the response to the response. right? And the reason that it is such, quick story. In my travels, I've sat at the feet of like, I think they call them Sufis. They sit there. That's what they do. They sit there, they meditate. People bring them food. And so, for whatever reason, these people are very insightful, and some people believe them to be magical. So I asked them questions, and I got responses, and everything that the person told me has come to pass. But one of the things that are most impactful and powerful for me as a person is he talked about being on a train, and that in this continuum, because that's what we are, right? You will build what you're going to build, you will build what you're going to build, so on and so forth. On this train, some of us move at a different rate of speed, faster, and we're out ahead, or in front, because it's not a competition, not out ahead, you're in front. And so you have the capacity to pick up information, to pick up experiences in a way that people who are coming behind you do not, because they're just not built that way. We're all built differently. And I think acceptance, right? We have to accept that. The responsibility of the person who is like the engine, the catalysts in the room, you don't stop. You got to get gas, you got to feed yourself, you got to put coal in it to stoke the fires and keep moving. But the capacity that you have and the duty that you have when that's what you are or what you represent is to leave placeholders. And when that person, when that thing, when that idea, when that part of the community is open to moving at your rate, come on. So oftentimes when we think about continuums and we think about capacity, we have quote unquote blanket statements that we try to write that are uber inclusive, right? Where we're going to put everything that we believe in and that we espouse in this statement or paragraphs that make up our quote unquote black and white identity online or in print. I think we're a matrix, right? And that's a different type of thought process, because a matrix also offers up opportunity for assessment, okay? Why are you doing what you're doing? Why do you choose to utilize that language versus other language? And for lack of a better phrasing, and just to be as clear and concise as possible, I believe that we're fearful of having the ideas in some instances that we espouse and believe and hold true, like personally, and as an institution, you hold that to, and you want that to ring true. We're fearful maybe of other people assessing that. And I'm trying not to use critical language, because I'm hopeful that people are good-natured or doing things for good reasons when they look at a statement or look at a person and try to say, okay, cool bag, cool shoes. So what does that mean about that person, right? What does it say about that person? So when we can't see the person and we see the example or the template that the institution says that this represents us, this represents our groups, I don't know if we're always okay with that. And do we build capacity in that frame where I know that we're going to do it as best we can, and I'm okay with people having an opportunity to review what we do and how we do it. Everybody gets input. This is one of the things I learned in leadership classes, right? Everyone has an opportunity to provide input, because everyone should have an opportunity to provide input. But input and decision-making are two different things, okay? So, all right. Well, we can keep going if you like. I have more stuff. Is my time up? I got 10 minutes, okay. Any other questions? This is a quiet group. Okay, part 2, okay? Oh, no, you don't get to get off. We work here, we work. You partnered with a group of 4, okay? You partnered with a group of 4. Now, you have to partner in a pair with someone that's not in your group of 4, okay? So partner with someone that's not in your group of 4. And I only have 10 minutes, so you got to move fast. All right, so we're kind of going to shift gears. We've had information for the last hour or so that's it's dense. You know, this isn't light conversation. So I'm going to give you an opportunity for some lighter conversation. The person that you're sitting in front of is your secondary partner, okay? I believe music moves mountains, okay? Because music is something that's universal. With the person that you're sitting with, in the theme of civil discourse, okay? I want you to think of a song or an artist that you'd like to share with the person that you're with, and I want you to talk about the type of discourse of a particular song, or maybe the livelihood of this person. What do they represent? Is it something that you would consider positive? Is it something that you would consider risque? Is this someone that you would want your daughter or son to come home with? You know, so I want you, more importantly, to share something personal, i.e. music, something that it moves you one way or the other with this person, and let them know why. Okay? I'll be coming around. Well, I want to simply thank all of you for being participatory this afternoon. I want to thank you for giving of your time and spending it not just with me, but with each other. You're building a sense of community and started a dialogue today to get to know some people that you don't know, I'm assuming, or maybe have known in passing. The deeper sense of community takes place when we do this. So this is simply a catalyst. Remember your homework. I will be checking, okay? That your group of 4, you're going to get together before Thanksgiving over coffee, or maybe someone's going to be froggy and make some wings on a Saturday and invite people over. But I want you to continue to dialogue about the questions that were presented to you, or come up with your own set of questions that may be more natural and fitting for the college and the community. Okay? Now with this group, this one-on-one group that your duo, as I like to call it, I was introduced to that last night, that play, right? Your duo. So your dynamic duo, what you're going to do with this folks, I want you to actually do the same thing, have a meeting on campus, but you don't have to do that until before Christmas. Don't wait until finals to try to get in touch with people, because they will tell you in some colorful language probably no. I don't have time to do it. I'm grading, or I have to get prepared for exams. Lastly, continue to be the catalyst. Continue to create the culture and the campus climate that you want to see occur on campus, because it simply begins and ends with each of us. Thank you very much.